Thank you, everybody, for joining us for part 2 of our Sketchulation tutorial for new users. My name is Natalie C. I'm a structural engineer at Tipping. Joining us, we have 𝘂𝗀𝗲𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗂𝗀𝗀𝗃, who is principal at Tipping. He is the mastermind behind Sketchulation, and so we're delighted to have him here. Today, for part 2, we're going to be reviewing a way up example. We're going to be demonstrating how to create an entity, showing you how to tag entities, doing some tables, showing you what a dependency is. And secondly, the second part is on expression systems. But before we dive into this part of the tutorial, we're going to do a little bit of a review of our first session.
Right.
Yeah.
Thanks, Natalie.
Okay.
So I'll just go ahead and start sharing now, if that's okay, Natalie.
Yeah, no problem.
It says someone else. There we go. Okay, someone else is sharing, and now I will start to share. And I can still see the slideshow, so I can look at those review topics. So just a brief review on what we talked about last time. The user interface in Sketchulation, a lot of it is rooted in the command line at the bottom. So if you want to draw something, you're most likely going to enter a command. If I draw a line and I want to work with that line, I can grab its grips and stretch it around. And if I want to see its properties, I type mo, and I get this command, modify properties. The sidebar comes up and we can see all of its properties here. We can make it a thick line if we wanted to here. We can make it draw as a rectangle with that little checkbox there. And we can display various things like its vector components or whatnot. Also, still reviewing here, there are two basic kinds of annotations in Sketchulation. One is a dumb annotation. It's really just for annotating, and the other one is an expression. So if we wanted to make some text, we type T for text, and we insert the text, and we say, here's my title. Oops. Not typing well this morning. Okay, here is my title. And if I have something in here that says x equals 3, that does nothing. One thing I'll point out, we didn't really talk too much about this, but there's lots of power in text objects. I can make this look like an expression if, say, I was doing some calculations and doing some derivations or something, but I don't want the expressions to interact with the rest of my layout. I can click here and it renders the text as an expression. So this could be 3 sine of, say, theta over 2 for fun. And that is still part of the text object, but it looks like an expression. Now, as opposed to outside of the text object, if I push xt, expression text, this actually creates an expression that is live and interacts with other expressions in the expression system. And we have this request for value operator here, which is the dash and the greater than symbol. And if you want to see literally what's being typed, you push Ctrl P. And then I can see the literal text along with the rendered text above it. And there's my request for value. Let's see, what else did we want to review? Tables and charts. I'm going to get into tables a little bit later, so I'm going to leave that off for now. But again, there's lots of things you can do in Sketchulation with charts. So just to review briefly, I want to make a little chart, CHT, and pull that on there. And let's say I want to plot y equals x squared. I can type series, add series, SER. It brings up the series editor. I'm going to make a little expression here. I'm going to say my expression defining x is just x. My expression defining y is y. And that's going to reference the definition of y that is outside of the, that's part of this expression system. My current expression system is the global one. And let's say I want that to go from -4 to 4. And I click add. and it creates this chart here. Lots of different types of series that we can use. That was an expression type of series, but there's also table data and different types of grids and things like that. So we'll do more of that as we go along. That was just a little brief thing. And then of course, if you want to create a report, create a calculations package for somebody to review, you'll want to think about your page layout. You see, I have my own template set up with a page that comes in automatically. And again, you can set up your own template by clicking new blank. And then you can set it up however you like. I like to put a page in first. So I start to type page, draw page, put that in wherever you like. And then if I want to set that as my template, I just go up here and say set template from current document. And then from then on, whenever I open it, it'll be this blank document here. And when you're ready to print your report, you need to set the print area. PA, I guess, is the shortcut for that. And Control P, and there we go. I'm ready to publish my little calculation there. Okay. Tim, it looks like you're unmuted. Maybe a couple other people unmuted. Happy to get comments, but and questions. Love those. But let's try to keep it quiet unless you have a question. Alrighty. Now we're gonna jump into the meat of the presentation here. I'll go ahead and make a new document. What we're going to do, close the other ones. We're going to do today is create a way up. And this is going to give
hello.
Hello. Hello.
And the rule.
Please, can you mute yourself unless you have a question? Thank you. Okay, so we're going to do a way up. Maybe you're wondering what a way up is. That's what we call it in our office, but it's basically what we mean by that is just how do you find the weight of a floor? We use it for seismic, but you'll see that there's lots of applications here there are lots of things that we'll do here that apply to other circumstances also. So let's say you have a set of drawings like I have here. I have a PDF file with architectural drawings. And one of my tasks as an engineer is to figure out the weight of this floor for my seismic loading. And I'm going to demonstrate how to do that. Okay, so if you had a Revit model or you had a CAD file, you could create a DXF file and import directly into Sketchulation. In this example, I'm just going to take a screenshot of this plan. So I'll do that, I'll do a print screen. I'm just going to make this as big as possible here. Print screen and grab this here and clip it. Now I'm going to paste it into Sketchulation. Okay. So here's my screenshot. One of the things that you'll notice when you do a screenshot is if it's a pretty large area of screen, you might not get desired resolution. Okay, so if you want better resolution, what you need to do is take an image export of this PDF. So this is in Bluebeam that we use. First, I'll have to extract this page because it's part of a studio session. Just plop it on my desktop for now. And now I have a page and I can crop it. So I always crop it because I'm going to make an image of it and I don't want to make the image any larger than I need to be. So there's my cropped image. And now I'll export the image JPEG. I'll call that x.jpg and put it on my desktop. Okay, so now I have an image on my desktop, and I'm going to now insert an image. So I did a Control V paste before, but here I'm going to insert an image. There's my image x.jpg, and I put my image in there. Now you'll notice to start with that the resolution is not any better. And you say, well, why is that? Why did I go through that trouble? Well, the reason is because Sketchulation by default limits the resolution of the image for display, and you can increase that if you want to. So if we wanted to get better resolution, I select the image, I type MO, and I go into the sidebar here and I look for image source. You'll see in the image source part, there's the path that I have to my file. And down below, you'll see here, this file has 49 megapixels in it, but only 10 are being displayed. So if I want better resolution, I need to shift that up. I can't get any more than 49 because that's what the image has in it, but I can get a lot better if I just put a 20 here, and then the image reloads. And then now when I zoom in, I have even better resolution than I had before. That's still not good enough. I could keep increasing it and get better and better until I'm satisfied. Now, I want to note a distinction here. I've got two images. One is embedded because I push Ctrl V. This image is going to be part of the file, and so it's going to get saved in the file. Many images will make a file a lot larger than a file without any images because those have lots of data in them. As opposed to this one is actually just referencing a path. So this would keep the file, the Sketchulation file, very light. But if this image ever moves, then you'll have a problem. The Sketchulation file won't know where the image file is anymore. Although you can do relative referencing. So if your Sketchulation file is in the same folder as the image, or you can you know the offsets in terms of the folder structure, you can use a relative path here like a // and that basically says, you know, look in this folder for the file name x.jpg. So those are some options. You can also embed an image. So once I have it here, I can click embed. And so now that image is going to be part of my file. So if I save the file, this image is going to be part of it. And again, it'll make the file large, but then I won't have to worry about the image ever moving around. Any questions on any of that? Alrighty, I'll keep moving. One thing I like to do when I'm working in this sort of space, I like to make the background white. So I push F4. That can also be done here. And I use the white background here, and I'll go ahead and delete this image. I'll use the screenshot image here. Now, first thing you need to do once you put in an image is you need to make sure it's the right scale. So Sketchulation has units and measurements involved. So right now, Sketchulation thinks that this bay width is 7'2.5", when in actuality it's 33 feet. So I need to scale up my image in order for my calculations to have integrity. So what I'll do is I'll select the image and the dimension. I type SC for scale. It's now asking me for the first point. So I'm going to select right here. That is my first point. And then it's asking, I can enter a scale factor or R for reference. And so this is what you commonly are going to do is enter R. No need to push the enter key. And now it's asking for a reference distance. And that would be from here to here. And so now the scaling is going along with that reference distance. And I know what that distance is supposed to be. It's supposed to be 33 feet. So I enter 33 feet, and that scales the image. And so now my dimension and my image are matching up properly. Now, the problem that I have now is that my paper is way too small. So what we need to do is we need to increase the annotation scale to make sure that the plan fully fits on my paper for my report. So I'm guessing that right now my annotation scale is 100. I'm guessing that wants to be about 500. And you see what happened is that the paper got larger. So this and the text, my dimension text got moved a little bit. Also got larger. So this is the essence of annotation scale. The size of the annotation on the paper is going to be controlled by the text style, TS for text style. And dimension has its own text style. The height of that text on paper is going to be 9 points, 0.125 inches. And so in order for that text to be the right height, if your annotation scale gets larger, then the text also has to get larger. And so now I have a paper that fully fits my plan, and I have an image that's scaled properly, and I'm ready to keep going. Any questions on annotation scale issues or any of what I've covered so far?
That's great.
Okay. Now, I like to, I'm going to do some tracing over this image. Again, we're trying to do a way up. And so what I like to do is make this image a little bit transparent so it fades back in the background a little bit. I'll do that by changing the appearance and taking the opacity. Usually like to take that down to about 0.4 or so. And now my image is a little bit transparent. And the next thing I'm going to do is start to trace my floor area. So I'll draw a shape, SH, and I'll just quickly trace this floor area. This is a special building. There's an interior area and an exterior area. And I'm just trying to get the interior area for now. And now I need to close off this shape. And what I want to do here is a double base point so I can get a nice square corner. So I'll type D for double, or also you could see here if I shift and right click, it's double base point there, D. And I push, it's asking for the first point for my double base point. I pick the end point down there, and then I pick the other end point here, and then it locks in to the intersection of the angular constraints at this corner. So I've now got a shape to work with. I can hatch that, hatch pattern, SOL, solid. And so now I have my shape there. Now, one thing you'll notice right away is that you know, this is kind of opaque and it's not colored. You can make your own layers, and I would do this if I was making a drawing or a set of calculations. We want to distinguish between different aspects of our way up. So this is going to be like a floor area, and so I might want to make a new layer called. Right now it's on the default layer, but I'll call this new layer WU area, like that, because this is going to be an area type of weight. WU for way up, dash area for area. You can make whatever names you want, whatever makes sense to you. The point is to have something that's separated out so that you can easily isolate different components of your drawing, or your, in this case, way up, and it helps you to see clearly. You can always freeze or turn off different layers. So I can turn off the default layer that would turn off my shape that I drew, or I can turn off the images layer, which would turn off my image or the dimensions, turn them on and off. Now I need to put my shape onto this layer. So I simply select the shape and I click here in the little area where that rectangle is, and then you can see down at the bottom it applied layer WU-area to one entity. Okay, now I want to change the color of this guy. So I select my layer here. I click H for hue. And let's say I usually like to work in blues and purples. So, you know, somewhere in this range, it's just nicest for me in my eyes. So I click this kind of hue, and I got a little bit of an aqua color here. Might want to make that line thicker. So I'll select the line width, and that thickens the edges of my shape. And now typically you want to give your, for this sort of application, you'll want to have that fill be transparent. And that's the alpha component. And I will select something that's, you know, roughly halfway through. So now I have a new layer, and it's got some transparency. Okay, so this is going to be my typical floor area, and this is going to have a certain weight. So now I need to figure out how much is the unit weight of this type of area. So I'll make a little table for that. TBL table. And I'm going to give this table a name. I double click on the title there, and I usually start my tables with 3 letters, TBL, and then we'll just say this is typical floor assembly. Okay. And then in my table, I start to fill it out a little bit. My first column, I'd call that item. This is going to be a text column. It's going to be descriptive of the parts of the assembly. And you can push Control T or right click and make that a text column. So we think about, well, what do we have in our building here? Maybe we have some flooring. So I type that in, flooring, and then maybe you have deck, concrete deck. Maybe that's lightweight concrete, and maybe that's 3 inches lightweight concrete over 3-inch deck, right? And then what do we have underneath that? We have some beams, right? And then we have probably some MEP. And then maybe you have some MISC. Maybe never forget the partitions. Okay. And I'm going to put in some numbers that make sense here. Now I'm going to put in my column here, W. This is going to be my weight. And I'm going to enter numbers in this column, and I want the program to put these in PSF. So I put the request for value operator and then the units PSF. So say my flooring is 1 PSF. This 3-inch concrete over 3-inch deck, I could figure that out very quickly. It's basically 4.5 inches times lightweight concrete 125 PCF, and that's probably good enough to give me my PSF 49.6. You could get that out of the 𝗫𝗄𝗃 catalog or whatever the supplier is. Maybe I have 5 PSF of beams, maybe 5 PSF of MEP, 2 of miscellaneous, and then this will be 15. Okay, or is that 10? I've always forgotten this. You look those up in the code when you're doing this for real. Okay, so here we have our assembly, and now I want to sum all of these up. So I go outside of my table now. I push XT, make an expression, and then I'm going to write here W tip floor, let's say. And that is going to be the sum, SUM. That's a function that's predefined in Sketchulation. I push tab. That replaces the word sum with the symbol there. And then I want the sum of that table up there. So I'm going to take TBL, tip floor assembly, and then I insert a curly bracket. So the curly bracket tells the program to look for the column that I'm about to enter, W. And you see you also get a little help there in the list of symbols. So I end curly bracket. And so that is going to take the sum of the values in column W. And then I do my request for value operator, and I get the result 69.9 PSF. So this is the typical weight of my floor. Now I want to assign that weight to my floor area here. I select the floor area. I type MO. And one of the submenus here is entity weight. I open that up. Now there's a couple different options here that I need to fill out. This is an element type area, so I want to use the area properties of this shape. And then I'm going to enter an expression. I start to type W, and you see here W tip floor. That's what I want. Okay. And I usually like to display the expression to start with. So now my shape, it has a grip that's blue, and I can move it around if I want. But now my shape has this weight assigned to it. Now, if I want to know the weight of that shape the way that it is, I can tag it, let's say. I go up to the entity tag submenu. I give this thing, call this ship floor, like that. Now that has created a symbol in the expression system. It also adds that tag to this entity's display properties here. And then I can make an expression, xt w, let's say area is equal to, and this is going to be a function, EntWeight, the special function in Sketchulation. And now it's asking for the boundary, and all I need to do is type SHP floor, ship floor, and do my request for value operator. And that is the weight of that area. Any questions so far? Anything you want me to go over again? All right.
Great.
Keep it moving. So what else? There are other things that we need to include in our way up, and So far, this has been pretty straightforward. We could have done this calculation to get this weight if we wanted to, more simply than what I've done. So what's the trouble? Why spend all this effort and time? Well, the reason is because there are other aspects of our assembly, typically. Sometimes these shapes get kind of confusing, and there are different parts of the floor that weigh differently. And that's where you really need to use Sketchulation for its full power. So one of the things that we'll have is a cladding load, for example. So I will create a shape for to represent the cladding. And what I'll do is I'll just do an offset, OFF offset. I'll offset my area shape by 6 inches here. And it's a little hard to see. I might have wanted to extend that out a little further, actually. But in any event, I'm going to leave it there. Now, currently, that shape has all of the attributes of my previous shape. So I want to delete some things. I want to delete the tag, for one thing. I also would like to put this on a different layer. So I will make a new layer called WU lines, let's say. And I will give it a different hue. Give it, say, something like purple. Okay. And I click the box to assign. And I also don't want this guy to have any hatch because this is just an outline that I'm working with. So I'm looking for none there. So now you start to see a little bit. I have my my facade out there. I could give it a different line type if I really want to pop it a little bit. And now you start to see. Now, this currently still has the EntWeight expression from the floor area, and we'll change that in a second. We'll say I'll do a CX copy expression. W facade is equal to, say, it's 20 PSF times my floor height, which was 15 feet or something. So this gives me a load in pounds per lineal foot. And I want my expression for the facade to now be W underscore facade. Okay. So now I have facade in my way up here. I have my area, typical area. I might have some other things going on here. Oftentimes, let's say the architect comes in here and they say, you know, this area here, for some reason, we really want this to have a nice tile. So maybe I call this, I make a new layer here, call it W area tile dash tile, like that. Okay. And I put that box I just drew on W area tile, and maybe I give that a hatch pattern of solid, and then I want to give that a different hue just so I can draw it out. So I'll give it like a blue. Okay, so now you see I have an area within an area, and this guy has to have a special assembly added to it. So we're going to make a new one here, W tile. That might be, 15 PSF if it's heavy stuff. And so that's my W tile. I assign this guy, it's an area type, and it's W tile. Yeah, this reminds me, actually, one of the things I forgot to do on the facade, be careful with this. This needs to be set to line, right? Okay. So now I have these various entities, and the weight of my floor is no longer 1568. It's going to be something else. Now the question is, what do we do next in order to get the full weight of everything that's in there? So here's what we'll do. We'll make a boundary, REC, rectangle. Just put that boundary around the whole thing. This boundary is really just a way of capturing whatever is inside of it in order to do the way up. So maybe I would make this, I'd make this a new layer. CLA is the change layer command, and I'll call this WUBDY boundary. Since it doesn't exist, you want to create one? I say yes. There we go. And so I make my new boundary. Let's say I keep it thick, but I'm going to make this a dotted line. And I'm going to give this a red hue, let's say. Okay. So now I have my boundary around the outside here. It has no weight assignment, but we do want to tag it. So I'm going to type MO, bring up my modified property editor, and tag it. One thing I'll mention at this point, you'll notice there's a lot of bringing up that modify property editor and all that stuff. You can actually type tag with something selected and it'll look for the property for you. You see here it finds entity tag. And then the other thing you can do is you can actually make shortcuts. You see custom commands. So I have a number of custom commands here, and one of them is TG. TG basically is an assigned property type of custom command, and it basically is going to assign the property name tag, whatever I choose. And you got some question marks here, which will help you to look up what the available commands are and properties. So that can help you create your custom commands. Now I want this guy, I'm just typing TG now, tag. This is going to be my 𝘂𝗲𝗶𝗵𝗂𝗁. That's my tag for this boundary. Now, if I want the weight of this floor, I can double click in here, replace that with 𝑊Floor, and then this becomes 𝘂𝗲𝗶𝗵𝗂𝗁. And you see now I'm getting 1800 kips of weight. And you might ask yourself, okay, what is it doing? I want to make sure that it's doing everything properly. So what you can do is you can select the boundary and you can go into the entity weight sub menu here and you can click highlight contained entities. Okay, and this brings up this little form. It helps you to navigate what's going on. You can click, you can see the 3 entities that are contributors, and you can click each one individually, and it'll tell you how much weight is being contributed. And then you can also see that in the pie chart. And they're sorted by layer, so that's why that's where the colors are coming from. And see, 86% of the weight coming from just the area, 11% from the facade, and then 3% from the tile, like that. Okay. Now, what we typically do in our office is we'll create a floor plan for each level, and we'll lay out our entity weight, objects on each level, and then we'll create a table with the different tags in it, and put this expression inside the table to get the weight for every floor, just like that. Okay. Any questions on this so far?
Could you temporarily remove an entity for at least, like if you wanted to determine a weight without deleting, like so you could just pull it out of the region, right?
There's 2 ways to do it. You could select it and set the element type to none, and so then it will ignore anything inside here that has that set to none. I think that might be not ignoring it, actually. I thought it would ignore it. None. Huh. That's what I would have thought we would do. I'm not sure if we go and click on that and see what it's doing. Yeah, it's still including it. That surprises me. I'll have to look into that. Yeah, and then the other thing you would do is you could pull it off. And again, this is supposed to update, and it's not updating properly, and I'm not sure why it's not doing that.
Mike, can you show the expression for showing the centroid?
Yeah. Okay, so once you have your way up done, and right now it looks like it's stuck on including entities, even though they're not in the boundary for some reason. We'll have to fix that. I'll pull these guys back in. Where were they? Right about there. So I'll make a copy of this expression, and I'll type C for centroid is equal to EntWeight shift BDY. And then what we've been using is just one version of the function, but you see with all functions, you can see how many versions of the function there are. With this in the bottom right, you'll see 1 of 3. And in this case, this function has 3. If it only has 1, it'll just say 1 of 1. And you see here, there are 3 options. And if you click through them, you can see what the different arguments are. So you have boundary, and then you have one for weight property, and then one weight property and layer filter, so that you can basically get the weight of things on a given layer. And so what you're asking about is the centroid. So we create the EntWeight expression, and then we put a comma, and now it's asking for a weight property that's described in the description here. And it's asking for a keyword basically, and you're given help here as to which keyword you want. We want the centroid, or the center of mass in this case, and we can have that display here with the request for value operator. And so now we see the centroid in text. Now, if we want to see where that is on the plan, we can do that. I'll make a point, PO, and by default, this is going to be on my current layer, which is 𝘂𝗲𝗵𝗵𝗂𝗶𝗴𝗵, and maybe I prefer that to be on weight. Probably want to keep that on a separate layer so it doesn't confuse. You can put point weights. So if you have a point laying around and it has a weight assignment, it will contribute. But let's put that on, say, annotations for now. So this is on annotations. Now I want that point to go where the centroid is of this way up. And what I do is I select the expression here that generates the centroid. I go to property assigner, and I make a new property assignment here. Now it's asking me to pick an entity, and I pick this point, and that shows up in the list. And then I need to tell it what do I want to do? What property do I want to assign to? And so we want to assign to the location of the point. I select location, and you see it moved the point to the center of that way up space. I haven't pointed out yet, but as you move the cursor, you can see the coordinates on the bottom right. So they're there. And so if I hover my cursor over that, I'll see 1172.66, which is roughly what this number is. Now, if things get moved around, let's say I add a new area here. Maybe there's a new tile area sort of in this region. And I click this guy, I type MP for match props. So now I have a new tile area. I go into the entity weight submenu, click area, and this already has the expression, and you can see the weight contribution of that is 50 kips. I want to make sure that these are set to back to not none anymore. Okay, so one of them needs to be area, and the other one needs to be line. And then now my centroid updated, and the point also got dragged along when that expression evaluated. So as you're adding things, that centroid will move around depending on what you've added. And this is what we use in order to figure out how to lay out the lateral system. You would look at where that centroid is, and you would want to lay out your lateral system symmetrically about that, so that you reduce torsional irregularity. So it's really helpful for that. Any other questions?
Is there a way to extract a list of the tags that are included in sort of the shape?
Yes.
Or a way to sort of group elements so that you can extract the list of tags and refer to them that way?
Yeah, so there's a couple things that you can do. Like I said, I went over the highlighting things so you can see things that way. When you select something, it gives you a description of the things that you've selected, so that you can see their information. If they are tagged, it will show there. The other thing that you can do is, and this works for any sort of property, is that you can select these things. They all happen to be shapes. So I have 5 shapes that I've selected. If I go into the table view, I can then see all of their properties in a table view. So I can see these the only 2 that had tags are these ones. And that's a way to get all their tags all at once. You can copy those tags out. For example, let's say I push Control C, copy that. And then let's say I make a table here. I go into my table, I push Control T to make that text, and I paste. So these are my two tags. I push OK. It's just giving you a warning that you're pasting something that's smaller than the table. That's OK. And I give that a title, TG. And let's say I want the area of those two shapes, just random shapes, int prop TG, comma, area. And maybe I want that in feet squared. Like that. Is that helpful? Or
Awesome. Yeah, that's exactly what I was looking for. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions? I always glad to get feedback. No? Okay. Then we had another couple of things to cover here. We've got about 15 more minutes. I'm going to pause here and just see what we're going to talk about is a little bit about dependencies and expression systems, which is a little bit of a non sequitur. Is there anything that anybody would like to see, or just a side topic that's of interest? Okay. So one thing just to finish this guy off, what I'd probably do is I'd move all of these things down a little bit. And then I would make a text object, say way up. And I'll put that on the heading text style like that, and set my print area, get that ready, and then push Control P, print that out to Bluebeam. If I had another floor, what I would do is maybe make a new layout. Call this level 2. And then you can go and you can take all of this stuff here, and we can just push Control C, copy. I pushed page down, page up and page down goes between layouts. I push Control V, and if I just push Enter, then it's going to land in the same spot from where it was copied. You see, by default, the new layout has the same annotation scale as the previous one. I could have also taken the page. That would have been helpful. Control C, Control V. Now we have some cleanup to do. So here's my shape boundary. I need to change that tag because right now it's ambiguous. So you can look at the Expression System Explorer to kind of see what symbols are in your entire file. And if I click on shape BDY for a second, here it is. It will tell you that there are multiple signing expressions, and that needs to be resolved before anything can be evaluated. And so what I know is that for this this shape is supposed to be shape BDY, put like underscore LO2 like that. So that is it's asking if I want to apply that everywhere. We say no because we're trying to rename that tag. And then I probably also don't want this guy to be tagged the shape of the floor, so I'll just delete that. Okay. And let's say on this floor here, they don't have any of the tile. And so that's the only difference between the two floors. I've copied, I'm pasted, I'm done with that floor. I go back, I call this level 1. I grab this title, Control C, Control V. This becomes level 2. And now I go back to my default layout. Now let's say I want to do a way up of 2 different floor levels, TBL. And again, I'll have TG for tag. This will be a text column, Control T. My first shape was SHP BDY. And then the next one was SHP BDY LO2. And then I want the W for that is EntWeight of the TG. And so that gives me the weights for those two floor levels. And then I can work with that. Maybe I do my base shear calculation, you know, sum these up from all my different floor levels and kind of work along. So now I have two pages and I want to print both of them. I push Control P. You can always have multiple pages on a given layout, but I have actually two layouts. And I could have put both of those pages on the same layout if I wanted to. The one thing that's nice about what I did do is that the centroid of these guys, now watch, I'll just push C for centroid, and it's going to come up with the centroid of only SHP-BDY, but maybe what I want to do here is I put in TG, like that. And then maybe in this one, I put this in as TG like that. And then I call this W underscore floor. And then now I am using the definitions of my weight expressions outside the table, like we've talked about that previously. So I have my expressions that are globally defined, and then they're rendering it here inside the table. And what's nice about what I've done is that these centroids are in the same coordinate system. If I put both the floor levels on the same layout, then they would have different coordinates just because they're different in the layout. But this way I can actually compare centroids and see how the centroid's moving around as we go up the building. Now, if I page up and page down between these two layouts, you'll see that they're kind of off in different spaces. It basically saves what the view from the last time you looked at it. But you can, in the layout editor, LO, we can have these guys synchronize their view. So now whenever I'm on the default layout, the view for level 2 updates. So I can go back and forth and quickly see what's different between them. It's kind of a nice thing. And then lastly, if I'm trying to print this thing out, I want to print all the floors all at once. Instead of just clicking print here, I go to options. And then I have a few options, but one of them is to print multiple layouts at once. And then that's going to make one document for all these layouts. That did it. Oh, no, it didn't do it yet. I got to tell it where to save it. Okay. Any questions on any of that?
That's great. We have 8 minutes, by the way.
Okay.
Mike.
Yep. So this is my printout. I'm ready to go for that. Now, I wanted to take the last few minutes, talk a little bit about expression systems. You know, expression systems are the way, recognizing that there are different expression systems gives you a way to keep your calculations separated out. So you can have the same variable name doing calculations in 2 expression systems and they won't be ambiguous. So for example, if I just go over here to the right, I have an expression x is equal to 5. And then I want y is equal to x to the 3rd. This is my calculation. And I want to know what this expression would be if x was something different. So the question is, what would you do? You'd maybe type xt and you'd say x equals 6. And then you get a question mark, right? And I hover over the question mark and it tells me it can't do it because x has multiple assigning expressions. And again, you can go up into the expression explorer and you can click on the symbol x and you'll see the same thing. You can see its assigning expressions in the list. You can see its dependencies and dependents. One other thing I haven't mentioned yet is you can actually show dependencies. I select the expression, I click show dependencies, say yes. And of course, this is a question mark because it's ambiguous. If I push Control X and delete that guy, then the dependencies are updated. X feeds into this expression here. If I'm zoomed in on this and I want to go to where the other, where that arrow starts, I double click on the arrow and it takes me there. Double click, I can go back and forth like that. Now getting back to the problem of ambiguity, I'll turn off these dependencies. push Control V. Now I'm back to being ambiguous. If I want this expression to evaluate for both these values of x, I need to make a new expression system. So I will click the new expression system button up here and make a new one, XS001. Now I have a new expression system, and I want to put this version of x on that expression system. So I select it, I type CXS, change expression system, and select XS01. Now this expression is not ambiguous anymore, so that's great. But if I want to know what the value of y is for in this expression system, I type XT and I type in y and then just the request for value operator. And then it evaluates for y based on this input for x. Now, this can be very confusing. If you're looking at this, you don't know how the program is doing what. You can clarify that by bringing up the expression system sidebar, and you can click the checkbox that says override layer colors. And if you're not colorblind, I'm sorry for those of you that are colorblind, this might be difficult, but you can see that the ones, the expressions on this expression system are that red color, and the other ones are black, so it's very clear what's using what. Now these things are far apart. I would push SPC space annotations, and again here, space annotations. And I might do that same thing over here. Just clean things up, line up my tables and things like this, and then move them over like that. And then I'm good to go. All right. 4 minutes left. Any final questions?
Can you show for the image that you input there, there's, I think you can change in the entity editor the appearance for soft edges. That's what I sometimes use to increase the.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, so there's lots of options working with images. One of the things there is if you type edit bitmap, then it brings up this this little form here. You can invert colors.
Nice.
You can change the hue. Like sometimes I'll just change the hue of the entire. I mean, this is black, so these have no but you can change the light, lightness, and they add some color. Yeah, once I give it some saturation, then I can start to change the hue and mess around with things. But and then you can flood with a particular color if you want, like that, if that pleases you. Yes. Okay, so I cancel out of that. Cancel out of that. So that's some of the options you have now in the modify property sidebar. There are a number of other options here, and it's actually really a good thing to be aware of. This right now, this image is taking it's 1.2 megapixels. You can shrink it down if you're and you always want to do this. Once you've got it set to the right size on your paper, you can shrink the image to a certain resolution, and that will just basically discard the resolution that you're not using. So I would click this and maybe make that a 300 DPI image. And it's if the image is smaller than that already, then it makes no effect. But then what you were asking about are a couple other things here. There's this visibility. You can turn off the image if you want. Show the image and the outline, like that. Where'd I go? Okay, so just the image is what I'd use. You can make it grayscale. We talked about opacity, and then soften edges. So what does soften edges do? By default, you see this is pixelated, and when you zoom out on an image, I don't know if you can I'll make the opacity. I'll bring it back up to 1. When I just pan a little bit and then lift up, it sort of softens things up. So from time to time, when the program's trying to render fast, it won't soften the edges. And then if we want it to soften the edges, we can just click the pan up and down, or we can, in this option here with the bitmap, we can make it choose how often the edges are softened. It just takes longer to render. That's why we don't do it all the time, but you can have it be never, auto, or always, and the auto is what I've just been demonstrating, but you could do it as always. And so then every time it renders, it softens the edges for you. And of course, when it prints, it will always do that. And you see there's a difference when the edges are softened versus never. It's a pixelated sort of view.
Thanks. Thanks, Min.
Yeah. You know, since we're talking about images, one other thing I think I'd show you is you can cut out areas of the image. So I can draw a rectangle here like this. If I wanted that to be a hole in the image, I have a rectangle there in the middle of the image. I can push crop, which is to add shapes to the image. I click that. It asks me select the main entity, which is the image. And then it asks me, knows that that's a bitmap that was selected. And then it's asking me for the other entities. So that would be this guy. It asks if I want that to be a fill or a hole. I say I want that to be a hole. And it asks me if I want to delete the shape. I'll say yes. And so now I have this this cropped bit out of my image, and I can stretch it around. It's still a shape internally, so I can do like that. Alternatively, I could make that a fill and only show that section of the image. Yeah.
That's cool.
Okay. Thank you so much for attending. I hope this has been helpful for you. If you have other questions or you know, there are things that weren't clear here, always happy to get questions. We do have the user forum up here that we monitor carefully. That brings up a website that we've set up for being able to post comments and questions. And you're always free to email us directly. So thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it.
Great. Awesome. Thanks everyone for joining us.
Thank you.
You're welcome.